Okay, good afternoon, everybody. So, yeah, we will start today's class. So, as I understand, I think few of you have a class after this, right? Yes, somebody has a class after this, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I will try to finish about 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes early. Yeah, so let's see. At least I'll finish on time. That much I can promise. All right. So, yeah, so we were discussing base classifier last class. So let's continue from there, and then we will briefly recap what we have done, and then we'll move from there. Okay. So, yeah, so in the last class, we were looking at the base classifier, and then we had a running example. So what we said is we will look at a scenario of a bank which needs to predict whether a customer is going to default or not, right? So that was what we were doing. And then the first setup that we considered was a case where you just use the prior probability. You only use what fraction of population is actually defaulting, and based on that you have one of three choices, right? Either you can always say, you can always predict the people default, or you can always predict they don't default, or in the third choice you may introduce some randomness. Okay, and the important point is this randomness has got nothing to do with the randomness that is coming in the customers itself. Okay, so this is like if you are having a like, let's say there is a India Pakistan cricket match going on, and you know that that coin toss will decide who gets to bat first, and having a separate toss of your own, you cannot use that to predict what is going to be the outcome of the toss that actually happens, right? So adding randomness like this is not going to help, and that we showed formally. All right, and then we introduced what is called as a loss function. We looked at the risk, which is the expected value of the loss function for a given classifier. Okay, so this is what we had been doing last class. And finally, after this, we moved to setup 1, where actually we began to use the features. And the first of the setup was we use a discrete feature, okay, where you have just one of two cases where X is either an early taxpayer or a not an early taxpayer. And based on that, you decide based on what is the posterior, right? Given that somebody is an early taxpayer, what is the probability that that person default versus what is the probability that person doesn't default? We use this as a decider as to what we are going to predict. Okay, and we also looked at the error that we make, or we didn't look at the error. Okay, anyway, so I think that's where we will start. Yeah, maybe we can skip the error computation. I will leave that as an exercise for you to do. Okay, how do you actually find out how the error is computed? We will move on to something more complicated. So before I begin today's class, I would like to know if there are any questions until last class. Is there any questions? You can type it out in chat as well. Okay, since I don't hear anything, I'm assuming everything is all right. So let's move on. Okay, so yeah, so setup 0 was just prior probability, setup 1 was discrete features. So we need to see some couple of things. Okay, we need to, in this class, we need to see what is the optimal proof of optimality that we need to see. Okay, so proof of optimality is not yet done. Okay, so we will see that. So what I told last time in the class is that if you compute the posterior, let's say Q0 of X, okay, so you use this formula, right? Q0 F0 of X divided by P0 F0 of X plus P1 F1 of X, right? And then similarly, we compute Q1 of X as P1 F1 of X divided by P0 F0 of X plus P1 F1 of X. Okay, and then this is what we did, and we said that intuitively what we are going to do is our base classifier HB of X, okay, is always going to report whichever is the higher posterior. So okay, if it reports 0 when Q0 of X is greater than Q1 of X. Okay, otherwise if Q0 of X is less than or equal to Q1 of X, we will report 1. So this was our classifier, and we said we appealed to intuition to say that this is optimal. So we haven't yet seen proof of optimality. We will come to that. So, okay, so we will do it very convincingly later on, but I would like to do something else. And then the proof will become easier. We will prove it for the most general case, and then this will be quite obvious. All right, so that is the plan for today, proof of optimality and for a general case. So now finally, moving on, we will look at setup 2. So let me choose a little more interesting color. Okay. So this is continuous features. So continuous features. So let's look at the case again. So you have the P0 and P1. This is the probability that Y is equal to 1. Okay, so this was Y is equal to 0. This was 0.8 and this was 0.2. Okay. Am I still connected? I just had a glitch here. Is it? Can people hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you. So this is what we had. Now let us look at a continuous set of features. So instead of looking at X, the previous X we looked at was whether he's an early tax payer or not. What we will look at instead is this. So we will assume that given that somebody is not going to default. Okay. So if someone is, so this is your time. This is your time axis. This is your X. So there will be two things. So someone is honest. That means they will pay tax early. So this is the date of last date of filing tax. So X is essentially like time difference, okay, between what tax paid minus last day. Okay, so this is what we are. I'm defining X, okay, as the time difference. So if someone is a person who doesn't default, okay, so that means F0 of X. Okay, so means this is a person who doesn't default. And if you look at the time difference, what we expect that this person is going to be paying taxes much earlier. So this is going to be, by assumption, I'm going to make an assumption that this is going to be normally distributed with mean 1, minus 1, and variance 1. Okay. Yes, someone has a question here. Okay, so this is what is the person who pays, who is a non-defaulter. Okay, so let me remind you what this was in discrete case. This was the probability that X takes a particular value given that Y is equal to 0. In continuous case, this is going to get replaced by density, and the density I'm assuming is a normal distribution. This is the mean, okay, and this is the variance. All right. And for the person who is a defaulter, so let's just indicate that little differently. So the person who is defaulting, he is going to actually have a distribution much different. Okay, let us assume that this distribution is normal with mean 1 and variance 1. Okay, something like this. All right. So F1 of X is equal to normal mean 1, variance 1. Okay, and this is what we will have. Now we will look at the posterior probability. Okay, so posterior probability Q0 of X. So let us say you observe X equal to, let's take a value just for you to get an idea of what we are going to actually use this as. So X equal to, let's say alpha. Okay, so alpha can be anything. Alpha can be minus 1, alpha can be 0, alpha can be 1, or it can be somewhere here. Okay, so if I want to do Q0 of alpha, how do we do this posterior? So can someone tell me? Okay, let me just pinpoint and ask people. Let's ask. Okay, what is going on? I don't change layout. Okay, there are quite a less number of people today. Okay, so Devyani, would you like to try? How do we find out the posterior x equal to alpha?
So that's the probability y is equal to 0 given that x is alpha.
Okay, so at least that's a good start. So what you are saying is this is a probability that y is equal to 0 given x is equal to alpha. That's a good start, but there is a thing, right? Here, yeah. So how do we estimate this? So same base rule. Okay, so this is, if this is what it is, so then it will be probability that y is equal to 0, x equal to alpha divided by, right? Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So this is what it is. Okay, now to expand this, what we are going to, okay, so this we will expand as probability that y equal to 0 into probability that x equal to alpha given y equal to 0. Okay, this is probability that y equal to 0 into probability that x equal to alpha, y equal to 0 plus probability that y equal to 1 into probability that x equal to alpha, y equal to 1. All right, so this is what it is. Now, one thing is something that may bother you. Okay, if you remember from your probability course, okay, if x is a continuous random variable, let us see, I don't know whether you remember this, there used to be a result like this. So this result may or may not have been discussed. Okay, so if x is a continuous random variable, probability that x takes a particular value, I don't know, beta, okay, is equal to 0 for all beta in real number. Okay, so this is the Greek alphabet called as beta. Okay, so like this is called as alpha, right? So that is beta. So this kind of a result was there. Okay, so when you come and ask, x is a continuous random variable, right? This is the time in which someone pays the tax, the difference, right? So this is a continuous value. It can take value from minus infinity to plus infinity. So this x equal to particular value, this tends to be 0, right? But what we are going to do is we are going to actually replace this with, so we cannot literally take this as the probability, but we will treat it as the density. Okay, so why is that? I will try to explain. So this is f of x equal to alpha. Okay, this is now f naught. Okay, because that is what is the class conditional density, right? So given y equal to 0, the distribution of x is called as class conditional density, which is f naught. Okay, so this will be p of y equal to 0, f naught of x equal to alpha. I will try to explain why we did this in just a minute. So this is f1 of x equal to alpha. So this is what we have. And this actually, if we just simplify, this will actually give us q naught of x equal to alpha is equal to p naught f naught by p naught f naught plus p1 f1. Okay, so I have omitted x equal to alpha in all these places, but you understand this is the same form that we had before. Okay, now coming to the idea that why we are treating the probability as density itself, this is something that you will see people do. And the notion, the idea is, even though at x equal to alpha, this is 0 probability, we are treating this as though y equal to alpha, probability that there is a small interval around alpha such that x belongs to, okay, small interval alpha minus delta by 2, comma alpha plus delta by 2, okay, given y equal to 0. And then the same thing. So I will not write the same. So interpretation is, even though this is x equal to alpha, we treat as though this is what we are interested in. And now you have seen the interpretation of density, right? So this is actually equal to f naught of x equal to alpha times delta, right? So same delta will appear here also. So we will have p naught f naught delta plus p1 p naught f naught delta plus p1 f1 delta, and then all the delta cancels out and you get this. Okay, so that is the notion why we are treating the posterior computation like this. And similarly, q1 of x, we can write it as p1 f1 divided by p naught f naught plus p1 f1. Okay, so now what is our base classifier? So our base classifier is the same. Okay, so our base classifier HB of X will be again 1 and 0. So if Q1 of X is greater than or equal to Q0 of X, or this is otherwise. Okay, so this is our base classifier as before. Okay, so let me just pause here. I think I have explained all the things that are involved in this particular problem. So let me see if everyone is following me so far. So in the chat window, if everything is okay, can you say it's clear or yes? If someone wants me to repeat any particular part, please let me know.
Then the last part once again.
Okay, so in the last part, is this, I don't know which one you're talking me about. Is this the one you are having confusion, the why we did this delta?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, so you remember this result, right? If X is a continuous random variable, if the probability that X takes a particular value, this is 0. This one you remember from, right? You remember from probability.
Yes, sir.
So now what we are saying is, since X is a continuous random variable, if you look at the posterior computation directly, that X equal to alpha given Y equal to 0 directly, if you put this is going to be 0 probability. So it will be P0 into 0 divided by P0 into 0 plus P1 into 0, or 0 by 0 you will get. Okay, so to not get into that pitfall, the idea, whenever you have X equal to alpha that is appearing in any of these three places, we are going to treat as though we are not interested in X equal to alpha, but we are interested at a small interval around alpha. Okay, X minus alpha by 2 and X plus alpha by 2. And if you recollect from what is the interpretation of density, so if you have a density like this, okay, so this is, let us say, fx of X, okay, and at a particular value A, if you say what is the interpretation of fx of A, the idea is if you take a small delta neighborhood or interval delta around A, the probability that X falls in neighborhood delta of A, right, some delta neighborhood of A, this is approximately equal to fx of A times delta. So this is that interpretation that is given to the density. So using that interpretation, if you apply this here, you will have P0 F0 times delta divided by P0 F0 delta plus P1 F1 delta, and all the deltas can be cancelled out in the next step. Okay, so that is why, even though this is not exactly probability, we use the class conditional density directly. Is that okay?
Yes, sir.
Pooja? Yeah,
Yes,
okay.
sir.
All right, so I don't hear from a lot of people. What's going on? Somebody has any questions here? Ankit?
No, sir, it's clear.
Okay, okay. You had actually told. All right. Okay. Okay. So Manan, everything okay?
Yes, sir. It's clear.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. That's good. So because this is an important point, so you will need to understand this well. So let's try to develop something more from here. Okay. So let's look at a special case. So we will start a special case now. So let us suppose that P0 is equal to P1 is equal to half. Okay. So now, let us suppose that the distributions F0 is normal with the, I will take some different values just so that you get some different interpretation. Mu0 variance, let us fix it to sigma for both the things. So F0 and F1 both are same variance. Okay, something like this, let us fix. Okay, now I'm going to draw these things in a scheme, like in a plot. So basically you have something like this. This is your F0, and this is your F1. Okay, so the heights are same because the variance are same. Okay, so I may not have drawn this properly, but anyway, so this is mu0 and this is mu1. Okay, so suppose we have something like this. So now, so what is Q0 of X? So if I ask this, Okay, so this is going to be P0 F0 divided by P0 F0 of X plus P1 F1 of X, right? And I said P0 is equal to P1. So this actually literally becomes Q0 of X divided is equal to F0 divided by, so P0 F0 plus P1 F1, I'm going to call it as a Z. It's because that is the same thing that appears here also, Q1X. Q1X is what? F1 by Z, right? Because same thing, it will, Q1 of X will be P1 F1 divided by P0 F0 plus P1 F1. So since I said in the special case P0 equal to P1 equal to half, we can cancel out all the P's, and then the denominator for both of them is same, which is we are calling as Z. Okay, so where if you want to be very clear, this is equal to P0 F0 plus P1 F1. So now our base classifier for this special case, okay, HB of X, what it is going to be 1, 0 depending upon Q0 of X if it is like less than or equal to Q1 of X, right? This is what we have, this is otherwise. So now the rule that Q0 of X is less than Q1 of X, okay, this actually translates to F0 of X by Z is less than or equal to F1 of X by Z. Okay, so what does that mean? So this actually means that this rule ends up becoming HB of X will be equal to 1 if F0 of X is less than or equal to F1 of X. Okay, 0 if F0 of X is greater than F1 of X. Okay, so now that is why I wrote this diagram over here. Now what I want you to focus here is what will happen. So let me just outline. How do I choose this? So just a minute. Yeah. Okay, so now when we have this as a rule, so can someone tell me what is the point where I am going to report 0? For what range? So this is the X, right? So for what range of X am I going to say the class is 0? Looking at this rule. So this rule, this is for the special case. This has become the rule. This is your F0. This is F1. So what is the region where you are going to report F0 and what is the region you are going to report F1? Can someone tell me?
X is less than that of intersection point.
Okay, what is the intersection point? What is the intersection point?
mu0 plus mu1 divided by 2.
Yes, very good. Okay, so this is the intersection point. So this region, I should write from minus infinity onwards. Okay, so let me just say this region is R0. Okay, and this region will be R1. Okay, so this is for the special case. This is what it will end up becoming. And so that is easy to derive. What you can do is you can look at F0x. So what is the region where F0x is greater than F1 of X? So if you look at the density, there will be 1 over 2 pi square root 2 pi sigma e power minus x minus mu1 mu0 squared by 2 sigma squared, right? Something like this. This should be greater than 1 over square root 2 pi sigma, right? Something similar. If you just simplify this, you will get the rule that x should be greater than x should be, if you simplify this and do it properly, you'll get x should be less than mu0 plus mu1 by 2. Not strict like this. So if you expand this, and take log on both sides and then, cancel out things, you will get this. Okay, so this is what you will get, and this is what intuitively makes sense also. Okay. So this is the base classifier for the special case, and we are going to use this to prove the optimality of a general classifier also. Okay, so if you have any questions for this special case, do let me know.
Sir.
Yeah.
Sir, but directly seeing that graph, how did you come up? How did you come up with that expression mu0 plus mu1 by 2, the intersection.
Okay, so first observation is that this graph and this shape, they are identical, right? Why are they identical? Who asked me this?
Normal distribution.
Yeah, they are normal distribution with the same variance. That's where I was very, very carefully chose the same variance. So the shape will be same. Okay. So when the shape is same, one is centered at mu0, one is centered at mu1. So essentially there is a symmetry here. Okay. So the point where the values are equal will be exactly the midpoint by symmetry. Viranj, does that make sense?
Okay. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, and then, so that is what it ends up becoming. And this makes sense. So this region, no, if you see, this is a region where mostly the points are coming from 0. And this is a region where mostly the points are coming from 1. Okay. So that is very good. So, any questions up until this point? So we are going to now do the optimality. So this is an important point where if you have any questions, you should let me know. Okay, I am presuming that everything is okay. So now let us try to understand how the errors will come. Okay. So probability of error. So how are errors going to come? Can someone tell me? What are the ways in which you can get an error for this problem? So we are going back to the original case. Okay, so now we are back to the original setup. So what is the original setup? There is a prior probability P0, P1. Okay, then there is a class. This is the prior. Then you have class conditional densities, which is given by F0, F1. And then we are also having posteriors Q0, Q1. This is posterior. Okay, so we are back to the original setup. So let me just change the color to reflect that fact. Okay, so how the errors will come for a classifier? What are the types of errors that you have in a classifier?
So hx not equal to yx. So
hx not equal to, yes, hx not equal to yx is what it is. But what are the different ways that can manifest?
False positives and false negatives.
Exactly, right? So basically what you have is your classifier hx says 0, but your y is actually 1, or you have your hx is 1 and your class is saying 0. I mean, your actual class is 0. Okay, these are the only two ways in which the errors will manifest in this. Fine. So in other words, we are going to have an error when x belongs to, when am I going to say hx, when is it going to say 0? Hx will be saying 0 whenever you are in R0, right? So in this region, whenever you are falling, you are going to say 0, but your actual class is 1. Okay, so this is, I've just changed this into your R0, R1 notation, that's all. Okay, then this will be probability that x belongs to R1 of h. I have put R1 of h because this R0 where you break depends upon the classifier. Okay, so that's why we have put an h here. So this is what it is. So this I think should be clear to everybody. I have just changed the language a little bit. Okay, so now let us use Bayes rule and try to see how this will turn out to be. Okay, so this is going to be probability that y equal to 1 into probability that x belongs to R0 of h, okay, conditional on y equal to 1, plus probability that y equal to 0 into probability that x belongs to R1 of h, conditional on y equal to 0. Okay, so we know all of this. So this is, let me just say, this is P1, right? This is P1, this is P0. Okay, so now, okay, so what is this? What is this called as? Anybody? What is this? See, I am asking questions, so somebody will answer and I will assume everybody has understood. So I want If people don't follow, they should interrupt. Okay, this is an online session. I haven't never seen you all, so it's important that you you ask questions and and get it clear for yourself. So what I'm asking here is, this is P1, this is P0, but what is this? Probability that X belongs to R0 of H given Y equal to 1. How do I find out this? Yes, anybody? Rohit? Any of the Rohit? There are 2 Rohits in the class. Anybody?
So it's the integral F0.
Integral. Okay. Yeah. So that let me write. Which class conditional density? So this is
here it will be Y is equal to F1x in the domain of R0.
Yes. So this will be F1 of X, okay, dx. So this is the class conditional density, okay. So this is what we will do. Because Y equal to 1, that means the distribution that we are interested in is F1. Okay, so this is the class conditional density. It's a conditional density. Okay, so we are, so I will not dwell on it more since and this will be R1 of H and F0 of X dx. Okay, Devyani has understood, but I don't know how others are following. Is it clear why we wrote this? Can I ask a quick poll again? Can people let me know if things are clear? Yes? Siddharth is okay. How about else? All right. Okay. Very good. So if it's clear, please ask questions or answer my things whenever I ask. Okay, there is no need to be shy. If you make mistakes, that's all right. I am sure in my videos you'll find several mistakes. Anyway, so now if you come to the figure that we were looking at, in the special case, I'm going to again try to visualize these regions. Let me just do it properly. Okay, so very nice. So this is now in the special case. Now for a moment we are back to special case. So for the classifier which has put the threshold over here, okay. So can we draw the regions? So what is R0? R0 is this, okay, and this goes even here, okay. So I'm not drawing it, and this is R1, and it goes on. So now if you try, so integral, you understand that it's an area under the curve, okay. So what is this integral that we are talking about here? So in this special case, remember this is special case. We are back to special case now. P0 is equal to P1. Okay, so these two numbers are same. So we are only interested in the integral parts. Okay, so what is this area? Can someone help me sketch this area? So let me ask somebody from masters. I'm not hearing anybody speak up from masters. Anyone, masters or postgraduate? So, someone wants to say what is these two areas? Simran, you want me to? Do you want to have a go? What is the areas that we should be drawing over here, corresponding to these two regions?
Sir, I'm not sure about that.
So yeah, anyway, if you're not sure, still you can tell me. So what is this first curve? What is this? Is it F0 or F1?
0.
F0. So this is F0 of X. Okay, this is F1 of X. Okay, so when I'm integrating F1, that means I'm looking at area under the curve of this region. Sorry, this is F1, right? So area under the curve of this region I'm looking at. Yes, Harsimran, it's clear, right? Whenever I'm integrating yes. F1, I'm looking. And now I'm saying integral for R0 of H. So that means this is the region for which I'm doing. So this will be the first integral. Is that okay, Harsimran?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. So similarly, this will be the second integral.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So now this is what you will get for the special case. So this is what we did. Now, if you see, let's just take one more example. For the special case itself, let us choose some other threshold. Okay. So let me choose this as the decision boundary. For some reason, suppose someone else comes up with another classifier, which is going to choose R0 like this and R1 like this. Okay. So now I want someone from undergraduate to tell me what are the error areas will be. Somebody wants to try out? Yes.
Sir, the point when it touches the first curve, under that in that curve, up till R0 will have for the F0.
Yeah. So this is what you're saying?
Yeah, that's
other
for
way.
F1.
Yeah, this is for F1. For the other one, it is this, right?
Yeah,
very good.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, if you see between the two classifiers, any threshold other than the one chosen by base classifier has a more risk of more error, because either you have to choose this area to integrate or you have to choose this area to integrate. So when I choose something like this portion is now getting integrated with respect to F1 instead of getting integrated with respect to F0. Okay. So essentially, if you look at this whole thing, what base classifier does, HB of X does, it is actually doing minimum of P0 F0, okay, or P1. So let me write this a little more carefully. I'm saying the base classifier is actually choosing P0 F0 of X or P1 F1 of X, and it is taking the minimum and trying to integrate this. This is for the entire region X. Okay, so this is what base classifier is doing. So I should not say HB of X. This is the risk of HB. Okay, so this is the risk. So base classifier's risk is given by this. Okay, so as a result, because we are doing something like this, what you end up getting is the risk associated with the base classifier is always less than or equal to the risk associated with any other classifier. Okay. So that is why this whole thing goes through. See, I took the help of the special case to show you the regions, but essentially the same proof goes through even if you think for a general case. All right. So have a look at all these steps and see if you understand this. All right. So this is one proof. I will show you another proof in some time. So is the optimality clear to people? Why?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay, Nidesh. So here, what I'm saying is whenever you choose R0, so every classifier, the error for every classifier is this. Is that okay, Nidesh?
Yes, sir.
So what is changing is whether we are doing R0, is it more than R1? How are we choosing R0 and R1 is how one classifier differs from the other classifier. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, when we chose R0, we chose in such a way that R0H, what was the region we chose? Can you tell me, Nidesh, how did we choose R0? So this is set of all X belonging to your script X such that, yes, what did we say? When are we choosing
such that Q0 is greater than Q1.
Very good, very good. So that is what you're saying. So Q0 of X is greater than Q1 of X. Okay. This is what we did. So this is very clear. So now I told you Q0 is P0 F0 divided by Z, right? Q1 is P1 F1 divided by Z. So let us write this. I will write a few extra steps so that it is clear to people. So this is P0 F0 by Z. Z is greater than or equal to P1 F1 by Z. All right. Is that all right so far? So this is also equal to X belonging to your X. Okay, so this is where such that P0 F0 is bigger than P1 F1. Okay, so for R0, I am choosing F1. The smaller of the two I am choosing. For R1, the other thing is true. In R1, what is happening? P1 F1 is bigger than P0 F0, but I am integrating with respect to P0 F0. I can push this integral inside. It's a constant. Okay. Does that make sense now, Nidish?
So could you please go down to the expression where you wrote we integrate on the minimum of both?
Okay. Here, yeah.
Okay, sir. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So since we are doing this, since this is true for all classifiers, and the classifier we have chosen in such a way that in R0x, P1 F1 is less than P0 F0, and we are integrating in R0x for P1 F1. In R1x, P1 F1 is bigger, but P0 F0 is smaller, and we are taking that. What essentially the Bayes classifier is doing is that probability of error is given by this integral, the minimum. Okay. And that is the reason why the Bayes classifier is the optimal. Okay. So let me just do a quick survey. Does everybody follow these steps? Yes. Okay, I don't hear from a few people at all, so I don't know what's going on. Yeah, but I hope things are all right. Okay. So this is what is the proof. Okay, so this is one proof. So I will give you one more proof, which will be useful for another, when you see this some other time for different generalization, right? So that is where that proof will be useful. And yeah, so okay, so that's what we will do next. So let's do proof number 2. So in proof 1, we conditioned on y equal to x. Okay, so in proof 2, we will condition on x. So that's what we will do. Sorry, in what did we do? Y equal to 0. Yeah, okay, fine. So let's do this. Okay, before going to proof 2, let us actually dwell a little bit on this. What is the mean? So optimality is clear. The proof, another proof I will give you in the next class. But let us just try to see what does this mean. Okay, so for this, we are again now back to the special case. So let me use the blue color here. Okay, so in the special case, when P0 equal to P1 equal to half, and your normal distribution F0 and F1 both are normally distributed with some mean mu0, but variances are same. Okay, so this is what we had, right? This was our normal distribution case. We also had this thing, right? And what we ended up showing is that your HB of X, okay, is going to be 0, 1, okay, and where X is greater than, so you will say 0 when X is less than mu0 plus mu1 by 2, right? This is X is greater than mu0 plus mu1 by 2. This is what we came up. So this was for the special case only, okay? I will write it in bold for special case only. Okay, so now if you observe, this falls in a general framework. So this kind of looks like, so classifier looks like it is going to say 0 or 1. Okay, if some Wx is greater than some W0. Okay, so W1x is greater than W0. This looks like W1x is less than or equal to W0. Sorry, I messed it up. So let me just fix this. So what I'm trying to say is this is what it looks like. Okay, so it looks like this. So what this is actually coming at is what is called as linear discriminant classifier. Or it is also called as a perceptron. So we will see this more detail. So what this is essentially saying is that your classifier, the decision of your classifier, okay, so h of x is going to be, so w1x less than 0, this implies w1x minus w0 is less than 0, or w1x minus w0 is greater than or equal to 0. In other words, if you take your x and you write it as x is same as x and you add a 1, so your original feature x, okay, I will say this has two components, this small x which is coming over here, and then I will add a 1. Okay, so this essentially becomes w transpose x is less than 0, and the other one becomes w transpose x is greater than 0. W minus w0, I am calling it as so w is nothing but some w1 dash and w0 dash. So essentially what you have done is your w transpose x is now completely determined by the sign of w transpose x. Okay, and that is the perceptron. So your base classifier under special case is becoming a perceptron. Okay, so so this is, you will see more things of discriminant based things in the future class. Okay, so the base classifier belongs to a class of classifiers called as generative classifiers. Okay, and the other class is called as discriminative classifiers or discriminant classifiers. Okay, so these are the two different types of classifiers we have. So what we essentially showed is that for a special classifier where the P0's priors are same, the variances are same, your base classifier is becoming like a linear discriminant classifier. Okay, so similarly, if you look at one more example, you will actually get even quadratic classifier. So let's do that. So special case 2. So let us pick two classifiers with the same mean and different variances. So let us say P0, P1 both are half. Okay, and F0 of F0 is distributed as normal with mean, let us say mu, variance sigma 0. F1 is distributed as normal with means mu and variance sigma 1. Okay, so if we have, so means are same. Okay, but what we have is mu0 is the variance mu0 square is less than mu1 square. So this is what we have. So if you draw this, what you will have is F0, since mu0 is less, will have a sharp rise like this, and the other one will look something like this. Okay, so this is how it will look. So yeah, so this is what it is, and the mean, let me draw it, mu. Okay, so this is the mean. So this is how the special case 2 will look like. So can someone tell me what is the R0 and R1 regions? So this is F0, this is F1. So can someone tell me what is R0 and R1?
Sir, R0 is from the right POI to infinity and left POI to minus infinity.
Okay, left.
Actually,
okay.
that was R1, sir. That was R1.
Okay, so see, okay, fine. There is a small error. So who was the one who just volunteered to answer?
Sir, me, Siddharth.
Okay, so Siddharth, so the base classifier is Q0 should be greater than, for R0. Okay, this is Q0 greater than Q1, right? This is what it is. Is that all right?
Yes, sir.
So this will end up becoming what it will become. F0 P0 divided by Z should be greater, F0 P0 by Z should be greater than F1 P1 by Z, right? Is that okay? So this will end up becoming P0 should be greater than P1, correct? Sorry,
Yes.
sorry. F0 should is greater than F0. Okay, F0 is greater than F1. Okay, so now tell me what is that region where F0 is greater than F1?
Sir, left point of intersection to right point of intersection.
Exactly. Okay, so this is what it is. So this is R0. Is that what you said? I must have misunderstood.
Yes, sir. Actually, I said R1. So that was from the right POI to infinity and left POI to minus infinity.
Okay. So you actually told correctly itself. So I did not catch you there. But anyway, this is okay, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So does everyone understand how this is coming? Yeah. Is it clear so far, everybody? Okay, very good. So basically, in special case 1, so let's just summarize. Okay. So in special case 1, what you had was linear separability. Okay. So I will give you some assignments for you to do. Okay. Then you will get this better. But in linear separability, what it meant is, if I take my vectors, if I take my x's, okay. So if let's say this is class 0, these are all class 0. Okay, and class 1, let me choose some other color. Something like this. Okay, don't bother about pluses and minus. I'm just representing like this. Linear separability means my decision is going to be a linear function, W transpose X. Okay, W transpose X greater than 0 is one region, less than 0 is another region. So this is what is linear separability. Okay, this is what is a perceptron as well. Okay, so now this was the special case 1. So in special case 2, what's happening? So let's just see that one as well. In special case 2, what we have is something similar, but here there is a difference. Okay, and you have all these points around it. My classifier decision boundary is going to be a region which is like this, right? So if you notice over here, that's what we are doing, you know, in the middle, R0 is sandwiched between two R1 regions. So similarly, in the special case 2, if you look at higher dimensions, this is what it will look like. Okay, and these kind of things will come in what is called as support vector machines. So this is where you will see this kind of a decision boundary. So this is a perceptron. Okay, this is a SVM. So you will see these things later on, but I'm just trying to give you a sense that Bayes classifier is rich enough to capture some of these other algorithms as well. Okay. All right. So I think this might be a good time to stop, but I am going to be around to answer your questions. So please ask if you have any questions. And if things are clear, you may as well leave the room. So that's it. So we are done for today's class. Thank you very much.